Welcome to Tales with Ghost King, your podcast for the bizarre, the weird, and the spooky. Hello, and welcome back to Tales with Ghost King. In today's episode, we will explore tiny mythical creatures. In traditional folklore, fairies are not the friendly, winged creatures seen in modern children's movies, but are complex, unpredictable, and often dangerous magical beings. The word fairy derives from the Latin fata, meaning fates, reflecting their historical role as powerful entities who meddled in human destiny. Across different global cultures, these spirits represent everything from fallen angels and ancient conquered gods to the personification of nature itself. In Irish mythology, fairies evolved from the Tuatha Dé Danann, a race of godlike beings who ruled Ireland until they were driven underground by the Celts. They retreated into the spirit world to become the people of the mounds. They used their innate magic to become the Sidae, today known as fairies. Traditional folklore rarely mentions wings. Instead, fairies flew using pure magic or by riding birds and ragwort stems. Winged depictions only become popular during the Victoria era. They could vary wildly in size, often shifting between microscopic forms and human stature. Fairies live by strict alien laws. They have a severe allergy to cold iron, which repels or burns them. To avoid their wrath, humans historically avoided speaking their true names, calling them the good neighbors or the wee folk instead. Originating in the west country of England, pixies are notoriously mischievous sprites who delight in misleading travelers, a phenomenon known as being pixie-led. Brownies and domovoys are household deities found in Scottish and Slavic traditions. They perform helpful domestic chores at night in exchange for small offerings like milk or honey. However, if insulted or given clothing, they will leave forever. A darker figure from Celtic lore, the Banshee, is a mourning spirit whose piercing wail portends the imminent death of a family member. Ghostly flickering lights are seen over bogs and marshes, and they're known as the Will-o'-the-Wisp. The legend says they are malicious fairy lights meant to trick travelers off safe paths and lure them into the treacherous swamps. One of the most terrifying fairy myths involves changelings. It was believed that fairies would steal beautiful human babies from their cradles and replace them with a sickly, ill-tempered, or an elderly fairy clone. The fairy ring. It's a circular growth pattern of mushrooms, and they were believed to be gateways to the fairy realm or dance floors for the fae. Humans who stepped inside a ring were cursed to dance until they died of exhaustion or found that decades had passed in the human world while only minutes passed for them. Even in modern history, fairy myths persisted. In 1917, two young cousins in England produced photographs of fairies that fooled prominent figures, including author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, before finally being exposed as a hoax decades later. Legends of little grass people, or hidden miniature tribes who dwell in fields, lawns, underbush, span multiple global cultures. These beings are frequently depicted as guardians of nature, playful tricksters, or supernatural hazards. Here are the most notable myths and legends of little people, closely tied to grass fields and greenery. The Abatwa, from Zulu folklore. The Abatwa are a race of minuscule humans from Zulu mythology. who are said to live alongside ants and sleep in the grass. They are exceptionally small, that they can ride on the backs of ants or hide under a single blade of grass. They can be proud and touchy. They are fiercely sensitive about their height. If you encounter an abattoir, they will ask, "From where did you first see me?" You must lie and say you saw them from far away or from the mountaintop. If you say you only just noticed them in the grass, they will kill you with the poison arrows out of offense. According to legend, they are usually only visible to young children, pregnant women, and magicians. In Ireland, the connection between the little people, fairies, and fields manifests as a magical, dangerous terrain feature known as hungry grass, or Feargota. The Fae curse is an area of grass indistinguishable from normal grass, but it has been cursed by the local fairies or by an unburied body. The penalty: if you stood on it, you were immediately overtaken by a great hunger or weariness. The remedy for this: travelers in rural Ireland traditionally carried a pocket sack or a crust of bread. Even eating a single crumb would immediately break the curse of the grass and save the victim from collapsing. In North America indigenous folklore, grass is often the setting where powerful, magical little heroes are discovered. A famous Cheyenne legend titled "Found in the Grass" tells the story of a magical, diminutive child hero named Mak So Is. Discovered hidden safely in the plain grass, he grows to possess immense shape-shifting powers, transforming from a small child into an ugly boy or a handsome warrior at will to protect his tribe. The Minhune or Nawa Hawaiian mythology, while famously associated with deep forests and valleys, these deep nature hidden entities are heavily intertwined with low-lying floral and grassland cover. They are dwarf-like people who hide in the greenery by day and construct massive stone structure roads and canoes by night. They are said to use grass, ferns, and banana leaves seamlessly as camouflage, vanishing into the natural growth the moment a human looks in their direction. In traditional Irish folklore, a leprechaun is a diminutive, solitary supernatural being classed as a type of fairy. Known originally as Willie, somewhat menacing tricksters rather than the friendly symbols celebrated today. Their legends have evolved significantly over more than 1,000 years. Leprechauns are considered descendants of the Tuatha, a supernatural race of ancient Irish gods who were relegated to the underground world of Sidhe after the spread of Christianity. One popular theory suggests the name and entity evolved from the Celtic sun god Lugh. As pagan traditions faded, he was reimagined as a stooping Lugh, a diminished fairy craftsman. The earliest recorded appearance of leprechauns come from an 8th century medieval tale called The Adventures of Fergus and Son of Leti. In the story, tiny water sprites attempt to drag a sleeping king into the sea, but he captures them and forces them to grant him 3 wishes for their release. By trade, leprechauns are expert shoemakers who mend the dancing shoes of other fairies. Folklore states they can often be located by the distinct faint tap-tap sound of their tiny hammers. While modern pop culture depicts them entirely in emerald green, historical texts describe leprechauns wearing red coats, cocked hats, and leather aprons prior to the 20th century. If a human manages to catch a leprechaun, the creature must reveal the location of its hidden pot of gold or grant 3 wishes in exchange for their freedom. However, the captor must maintain absolute eye contact. The moment the human blinks or looks away, the leprechaun vanishes instantly. According to Discovering Ireland, in one tale, a young farmer captures a leprechaun. The leprechaun says that the gold is hidden beneath a tree in the woods. The farmer ties his red scarf around the tree, but when the farmer returns, he finds that the leprechaun has tied a red scarf around every tree in the woods. As noted on History.com, they were historically portrayed as cunning and untrustworthy tricksters, who were often mean and delighted in leading people astray, stealing, or playing harmful pranks. The Wolpertinger is a famous chimerical hybrid creature from Bavarian folklore that is said to inhabit the alpine forest of southeast Germany. While no two of them look exactly alike due to the regional tall tales, the most widespread description portrays the creature with the head of a hare, the body of a squirrel, the antlers of a deer, and the wings of a pheasant. More eccentric variations describe them with vampire-like fangs, duck bills, or webbed feet, fueled entirely by the limits of local imagination. Bavarian lore states that they are extremely shy and can only be spotted under highly specific romantic conditions. The folklore states that they only show themselves to beautiful maidens on a full moon if they are taken into secluded parts of the Bavarian forest by the right man. Another traditional hunting trick told to gullible tourists is that the beast can be trapped by sprinkling salt on its tail or by holding a candle and a sack open in front of its burrow during a full moon. The legend of the Wolpertinger is largely a product of 19th century Germany taxidermists. In the early 1800s, mischievous taxidermists began stitching together parts of different animals to sell to unsuspecting tourists as genuine local wildlife. Biologists also attribute historical sightings to a virus that is a disease in rabbits that causes hard, horn-like carcinomas to grow on their heads, closely mimicking antlers. Stuffed Wolpertingers remain a staple of Bavarian culture, frequently displayed on the walls of traditional pubs, hotels, and restaurants. If you want to see them in a formal setting, the German Hunting and Fishing Museum in Munich houses a permanent exhibition showcasing various creative iterations of the beast. The carbuncle is an elusive, treasure-guarding creature from South American folklore, most prominently rooted in the mining lore of northern Chile. Chalote mythology in the plains of Paraguay and Argentina. The defining characteristics of this mythical beast is a glowing, fiery red gemstone or mirror embedded in its forehead or shell, which radiates a brilliant light capable of blinding or mesmerizing onlookers. The name itself derives from Latin, where its meaning is little coal, historically used to describe glowing red gemstones like garnets and rubies. Because they are fundamentally a creature of light that manifests in pitch dark, wilderness, or deep caves, nobody ever saw it well enough to know whether it was a bird or a mammal. Consequently, its physical shape varies widely across regional legends. One of the oldest documented legends describes it as a small creature, slightly larger than a mouse, shaped like a segmented ear of corn. It possesses a rock-like bivalve shell that it can clamp shut to instantly extinguish its internal light and camouflage itself as an ordinary stone if it senses any danger. In southern Chile's Chalote mythology, it is often described as a small, luminescent dog or a black cat with a glowing chin or a tuft of light beneath its beard. Elders in Andine Mining communities sometimes depict the creature as a Zorro or a fox, a heavy turtle, or a spectral dog acting as the ultimate protector of the earth. In contemporary pop culture and fantasy art, it is frequently re-imaged as a small quadrupedal armadillo or a mammalian creature featuring a ruby stone on its forehead. The folklore surrounding it heavily revolves around wealth, testing human morality and ancient history. In the Chilote mythology of southern Chile, it is said to be the guardian of metals. It possesses the unique property of shifting its light's color, ranging from bright bluish white to fiery greenish red, to match the specific type of gold, silver, or gemstone vein it is currently protecting. The creature is not inherently malicious. Legend states that if the creature encounters a traveler with pure intentions, it may voluntarily vomit a solid ball of gold or defecate pure gold coins to grant them permanent relief from poverty. However, if the traveler displays violent greed or tries to capture it by force, it will re-ingest its treasure, extinguish its light, and strike the hunter down with permanent blindness or a physical paralysis. According to northern Chilean mining lore, the elusive creature only manifests clearly during the dark of night of the southern hemisphere's winter solstice in late June. If a seeker spots its light, they must throw a lasso over it. It will vanish into thin air along with the lasso. The hunter must return before dawn the next morning to track the rope. The exact spot where the lasso is found, buried in the dirt, often at the roots of a thorny calafate bush, marks the location of a hidden conquistador hoard or a gold vein. When Spanish and Portuguese conquistadors arrived in South America in the 16th century, they heard indigenous Tupi descriptions of a glowing creature. The European explorers immediately viewed this creature through the lens of their own medieval bestiaries. They connected the descriptions to European myths of the guave or wyvern dragons believed to carry a miraculous, curative gemstone inside their skulls. Biologists and historians suggest that the myth of it likely stems from early encounters with unique South American wildlife. The combination of a segment shell, nocturnal habits, and glowing light points directly to creatures like the pink fairy armadillo, or the glowing phenomenon caused by bioluminescence firefly larvae and marine bivalve mollusk exposing during low tide. That's all we have today for tiny mythical creatures. Don't forget to email your ghost stories or anything you want to hear on the podcast to taleswithghostking@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and check back weekly for new episodes of Tales with Ghost King.